Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You, Hollywood. And here's the saltiest of salt licks. The deers just love him. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Robert Winfree. Yay!
Yeah, I was going to make a joke there, but I don't think any of you would get it, so I'm not going to.
Oh, don't just leave us hanging like that. Leave me hanging on the telephone. Don't leave me hanging on the telephone. Oh, Robert Winfree. Oh!
You done?
We still have a movie to review, so I can't say for certain.
You done singing?
Again, same answer.
Are you done singing that song at this moment?
At this moment.
For the next 30 minutes.
For the next
45.
30, for the next
45 tops.
For the next 30 seconds. What's your joke?
Again, literally none of you would get it. Don't worry about it.
We did an entire podcast of none of you would get it because Jesse and I don't know anything about history. Don't know much about history. Don't know much of biology. Boom, 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 boom. Say the fucking joke or I'm going to keep doing that.
I'm on about 3 hours sleep. Can we just not?
Go ahead and start the show there, bud.
All right. I'm Robert Winfree. As Mark introduced me, I am just going to warn all of you ahead of time. Yeah, no, not with this movie. Just none of it. Just none of it. So be prepared for that. That'll be fun. Joining with us because he was supposed to sub in if I was unable to see the movie and then talk about it, which was kind of a near thing. Jason Teasley is here with us, and he'll be here next week, but we'll get to that when we get into plugs. Jason, how are you? Nice to have you on the show.
I'm here, and I'm well rested from watching this movie, and I'm looking forward to getting through this podcast without you two yelling at each other like a married couple in a domestic violence situation.
I make no promises.
You know, they say that the mass shootings, the common connective tissue in all mass shootings is domestic violence, so you never know what could happen with me and Robert.
That's not always true.
That means Jesse's due, isn't it? Because he does more podcasts with you guys than anybody.
You know what? No. For a lot of people, you could say that, but I don't think you can about Jesse.
I don't think Jesse's got mass shooter in him.
Well, everyone does if the right set of circumstances arrive. But
like Jim Jeffrey says, sometimes we all get a little sad. That's right. We all get a little sad. Like Job from the Bible. Robert, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, at the moment, it seems we're staring into the abyss of human potential, of humans, man's inhumanity to man. Which is probably a fitting way to dovetail into this movie.
I believe that was the working shooting title. For the Fast and Furious Man's Inhumanity to Man. Well,
The Rock does quote Nietzsche at one point.
He does.
Because
this is a smart movie.
That was the dumbest thing.
I'm going
to yell about this movie enough in a minute. I'll save it for then. Tonight we are reviewing The Fast and the Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw.
And why are we doing this? Because Robert Winfree insisted.
No.
Yes.
Stop it.
Yes.
I did not insist. I pointed out an inconsistency. And look, let's be clear. If I never brought that up, if I never said anything, when that first trailer dropped, the next time we talked, you've been, hey, Hobbs and Shaw's on the schedule.
All right. The reality is that New Mutants was initially supposed to drop. Well, not initially. Initially, it was supposed to come out 20 years ago.
Never.
But it was at one point on the schedule the same day as Hobbs and Shaw, and I made an executive decision at that time we were going to do the New Mutants. Then it fell off the schedule, and I honestly wasn't going to replace it with Hobbs and Shaw. I really wasn't. But then Robert Winfree simply begged me to talk about this movie. He was like, come on, you do a blockbuster podcast. You do a podcast that talks about big franchise movies, this clicks all the boxes. It's got The Rock. It's a franchise. It's a sequel. It's a blockbuster. It's an action movie. It's dumb. You have to put it on the schedule. It's literally a damn you Hollywood example of what we do here. And I'm like, you know what? You're not wrong about that.
And it will continue to be once we're done talking about it.
So if you're listening
and
to
again,
this
I do absolutely maintain that first trailer drops and your response is to put this on the schedule.
I'm going with the story, and I want all of our fans that listen to this podcast to know that this is your fault.
I am not disputing the events in question, the sequence of events. I am not.
Okay.
That's what happened. My point, and there is an actual legal term for this. I forget what it is, but there is actually a argument for the prosecution in most criminal cases that if you can demonstrate reasonably that a piece of evidence would have been found absent corruption, it can still be admitted as evidence.
All right, so you're not talking about precedent then.
No. There's a completely different I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what the name of it either is.
Yeah, but it's a thing. My point is, if I keep my mouth shut, we are still here today doing this.
So what have we learned from this process?
That nothing I do matters.
Correct. Now introduce the goddamn show already.
No, it's terrible.
Well, hold up. Last night, Robert made this argument when I said I demanded the review a movie, and Robert says anything I say doesn't matter to Mark. So I have to side with you'd probably still have us reviewing this movie regardless, Mark.
Thank you.
Do you want Jason? Do you want your movie or don't you?
I agree with Mark.
All right, we can move on now.
And you sell out your integrity just like that. I am the only person of moral character on the entire network. I just want that known.
Yeah, that and a buck video get you on the bus. Talk about the fucking movie already.
No, it's too amusing to listen to you lose your mind. All right, we are talking about Hobbs and Shaw and this utter catastrophe of a film. All right, it opens with a bunch of MI6 agents actually in military gear rather than just straight up tactical gear not associated with a specific military unit because hey, reality's not a thing in this movie.
Well, it is a Fast and Furious movie, so physics go out the window with the title.
Also, the physical world does not actually exist in this movie. I'm not sure how it manifests, but it does not operate the same way we do.
I know that you don't come on the show very much, but if you keep interrupting him, we're going to be here till 11 o'clock, and we're going to then need to renegotiate your movie or anything you choose to pitch me in the future. So go on, Robert.
So we see Deckard Shaw's little sister Hattie is part of this MI6 team. They are attempting to steal from some unknown. This is the. I'll save the plot incongruity because complaining about the plot of one of these movies seems like pissing into the wind. But they show up to try and acquire a virus that. God, this is so stupid. It's not actually a virus. It's some kind of quasi-programmable nanobite-infused variant of a virus that can be used to target specific groups of people with gene sequencing. I mean, I've already vomited twice into my mouth a little bit just trying to wrap my head around this. Anyway, Idris Elba shows up and proceeds to kill the rest of the team. Vanessa Kirby escapes because her name's on the title card. She escapes, but she's only able to actually escape from Elba's character of Brixton Lore. Good God. That is the dumbest name. I did not know his character's last name until I looked at this. Was that focus grouped or something? Just, oh, God. Anyway. The only way she's able to escape from the situation when he attacks is to actually inject herself with the virus and become kind of a human incubator. I mean, it was a better plot point when it was the last half of Mission Impossible 2, but okay. She escapes Brixton and the techno cult terrorist, not a joke, organization Edeon that Brixton works for, then sets up Vanessa, makes it look like she's the one who killed her own team and stole the virus for her own nefarious purposes. She goes underground. We cut to The Rock as Luke Hobbs and Jason Statham as Deckard Shaw, going about their regular business, and boy, aren't they just oil and water. These two kooky cats will just never get along.
Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da.
Oh, God.
Hobbs and Shaw, the movie that asks, what if Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor were action stars?
That is a good assessment.
I would rather watch that movie.
Yes, your next couple of movies are going to be Hobbs and Shaw, Stir Crazy, Hobbs.
See no evil, hear no evil.
Yes, that's the name. Yes, that'll complete the trilogy. Mark that down, Universal.
Oh, God. Anyway.
You guys are putting it into the universe. It's going to happen.
That's right.
You know what? I'll take it at this point. It can't be. If it's worse than this, my brain will just turn to mush and leak out my ears.
I need to hear Jason Statham walk past, do a panning camera shot going, yeah, we bad.
We miss you, Gene Wilder. The world was a better place with you in it. All right, so those two are recruited by CIA assets, like Jack and Ass, I don't know, to track her down because they don't want MI6 to find her, because if MI6 finds her, they're just going to execute her, and no one's really, for some reason, no one is actually aware of the techno cult that wants to wipe out all the weak, quote-unquote, because the entire pitch for this movie was a bit of The Rock's pro wrestling, a bit of Jason Statham action, a pinch of Mission Impossible 1, 2, and 3, and just a dash of stupid, watered-down Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of Fast and Furious physics.
So anyway, they show up. The Rock and Jason Statham do not get along. They trade insults, and probably the only somewhat amusing bit in this entire movie for me was them explaining what they hate about each other so much.
It's mostly each other's face.
Well, The Rock hates Jason Statham's voice. Jason Statham hates The Rock's face.
Makes sense.
It does. Jason Statham tells them all to piss off. He's doing this on his own. The Rock says, good. I don't need you anyway, Baka. There's a weeb joke for everybody out there. They go about this in different ways. The Rock does wind up encountering Vanessa Kirby, where he has no time for her feminist BS and just single-hand presses her over his head and says, we're going to have a conversation, right? And she makes the angriest of faces while still trying to be cute.
Vanessa Kirby has been nominated and I think won a number of acting awards. I just want you to know that.
I don't believe that's true.
She plays Margaret, Princess Margaret, on The Crown.
Let's see. A bunch of third places. Yeah, I'm not really going with that.
Okay, hang on. She's won. Let's see.
She has won. If we're talking about The Crown, she has won a UK TV actress and a BAFTA TV Award Best Supporting Actress.
She was nominated for a Primetime Emmy. She didn't win it though.
The Emmys mean dick.
She's won a bunch of Ian Charleston Awards.
And again, in the third place category.
Yeah, she's an incredible actress, and it shows in this movie. Go on.
That is not true at all.
Oh, God.
You knew what you signed up for, Jason.
I know.
So she winds up back at the CIA as Jason Statham examines her living quarters to try and track down what she was into, and is accosted by our technophallic cult members. He beats the crap out of all of them, prevents a grenade from going off, shows back up at the CIA black site because that's his sister, don't you know? And hilarious pseudo-hilarity ensues as they all kind of engage in a Mexican-Samoan standoff.
Mexican, Samoan, Jamaican, British stand-up. I don't know. It was ridiculous. Just this movie.
They all
was ridiculous.
point their guns at each other and say, "No, we're doing this my way. No, we're doing this my way. No, you're all idiots. I'm the virus." And everyone's jaw drops for no discernible reason. Thankfully, Idris Elba shows up to put an end to these shenanigans. He attempts to abduct Vanessa Kirby. He is stopped. Never mind how a CIA black site is so badly compromised and secured that his entire team was able to completely secure to the roof of this facility anchor points for cables so they can descend safely to the ground 150 stories below or something. That doesn't work.
That's not the most ridiculous part. The most ridiculous part of that is coming up. You're getting ready to talk about, I'm sure.
The Rock jumps out of the building. Now, I have to unfortunately tell all of you one thing about physics, because this is just too stupid for me not to point out, also because there's a bunch of people who don't know this. Weight does not actually affect how fast things fall. It's all about air resistance. If you drop a 10-pound bowling ball and a marble from a height of 20 feet at the same time, they will hit the ground at the same time. So how The Rock is able to jump out of a building and somehow gain ground on a free-falling elevator holding Jason Statham?
Well, he had much less wind resistance than the elevator.
No. Not true. Stop
The elevator stopped at every floor.
No, it didn't.
The elevator answers to a different god than The Rock.
No, but I will accept Jason's answer as the most amusing. Anyway, they all land on the ground. It turns out that Brixton and Deckard used to be... you were my brother in arms, and then you shot me in the head after you betrayed me to a techno cult. Yeah, so who's really in the wrong here? Well, we can both admit we were wrong and still hug it out, right? Now we're going to shoot each other in the face a few dozen times. That'll help things. There's a chase sequence through London, probably the only decent action scene in the entire movie. The Rock and Jason, all of our protagonists escape to Jason Statham's safe house. More quasi-hilarious dialogue is exchanged. They decide that they have to get out of London, one of the most heavily surveilled cities on Earth, if not straight up the most. Because now, with the power of hacking, because that's how computers work, our techno cult manipulates the totality of media around the globe.
In fairness to Edion, I mean, all of media is owned by 3 companies. It's not that hard.
I would have believed it if they'd actually acknowledged that. Okay, mass media is owned by 4 people. We own 3 of them. Get them on the line. We'll tell them the story. Okay, I'm down. Run with that. But no, we will hack them. So now the entire world thinks that Hobbs and Shaw are responsible for having destroyed the CIA black site and are now in cahoots, starting their own terrorist organization. Because why not? They sneak out of the country with more computer-related bullshit. I'm going to change your biometrics. That's not how that works. So they go to take a commercial flight out of there to... Where were they going? They're going to Moscow because... along the way, they have encountered a Russian scientist, because they're always Russian, who helped develop this programmable mix of biology and technology that can't actually exist based on all current understandings of science.
You're missing an element: technology, biology, and magic.
No, I'd have more respect for this movie if they said magic. They don't. And there are only apparently 2 ways to get the virus within its little nanocapsules out of Vanessa Kirby's body before it goes airborne, and it kills us all. You don't understand, you mad humans. Once it goes airborne, that's it. No understanding of vectors or virology or how things actually spread. None. Just none. Just gotta save the world, you bunch of meathead jackasses. But there are only two ways to deal with this. One is to shoot her in the face and then reduce her body to a fine carbon-like substance via intense heat. The other is, it's too dangerous. You have to extract the material from her blood. As though this isn't a thing done literally every hour of every day around the country, around the world, for various other medical purposes. But no, too dangerous. Oh, I hate this movie so much.
So
Come on, you're only a third of the way through this.
As they're flying to Russia, there's a bit of what's supposed to be hilarity as Jason Statham tries to hold up the Rock at customs with the name. His fake name was what? Michael Oxmall?
Yeah, my ox.
And
Mike Oxball.
And for those of us who have actually seen a Simpsons episode or two from the past, we all know what the joke is, but I'm sure there's a couple of 13-year-olds who just fell out of their chairs.
Yeah, neither one of my kids got it.
I would hope not.
If they did, then either you've done really good as a parent or you failed as a parent.
The Rock is able to overcome all the actual security measures in place at the airport with just the force of his personality, which is actually the most believable stupid thing he does in the entire movie. He will not be deterred. He and Jason Statham resume bickering on the airplane. Small, angry black comedian shows up to calm the waters.
It's Kevin Hart, who will also be joining The Rock later when we review Jumanji 3.
He showed up on screen, and I wanted to die. I prayed for a mild coronary to get me out of that theater. God did not answer. They arrive in Moscow. They decide that the only way they can break into the Edion facility is to actually turn over Vanessa Kirby, so they'll take her to the extraction machine while The Rock and Jason Statham break into the facility and blow everything up, and we'll all escape and head to the Winchester for it all to blow over. I don't know. So they turn over Vanessa Kirby. She meets the same Russian scientist who has since been recaptured by the techno cult. The Rock and Jason Statham were actually expected because the cult's leader, who has some bizarre history with Hobbs that's alluded to, actually wants to convert them to his religion of the weak don't matter and only the strong survive, and we're totally not ripping off actual Apocalypse from the comics.
By the way, what was the villain's name? Was it Mr. Nobody or something like that?
Who?
the mysterious voice.
He gets no name. He's just. I don't even think they have a code. He's like the director or something stupid.
No, I feel like they called him like Mr. Nobody because I kept thinking like, "Hey, we just did this in Doom Patrol."
If they did, it was a one-off and was never repeated.
Jason, do you remember?
I thought they mentioned his name, but I didn't catch it. Like I said, I watched it 3 times, and all 3 times I was half asleep.
Terrific.
Because it was so exhilaratingly intense and kept me on the edge of my seat, and yeah.
Anyway, so that goes badly, but they do escape with the machine in question. They blow up the facility. In the course of escaping, they damage the machine that they need. Vanessa Kirby's all fine. It's now time to shoot me in the face and burn my body to ash because I'm a strong, independent woman who doesn't need no man to tell me what to do with my life. Jason Statham's response is, we've still got time, and you're my sister, and I don't care that you're a strong, independent woman. I'm not shooting you in the head. The Rock looks at the damage to this high-tech machine developed exclusively by a techno cult whose only actual benefit of membership is the cutting-edge technology that they have exclusive property to, goes, my estranged dumbass mechanic brother back in Samoa can totally fix this, guys. So they all head to Samoa because The Rock wanted it in the contract. They The Rock reunites with his somewhat estranged family. His brother is, in fact, able to fix the machine. They prepare for battle because utilizing traditional Samoan hand weaponry against guns is a good idea. But, we stole one of their... technology is actually their weakness, not their strength, because humans are greater than machines, and I invite anyone to stick their hand into a wood chipper and tell me that's the truth. Where did I leave off? Sorry, my mind just blanked. Frickin' Idris Elba shows up with his army. Their weapons are all disabled through the power of hacking, because that's a thing. This makes marginally more sense than James Remar being able to shoot a bit of electrical current into the body of Paul Wright's... not Paul Wright.
Paul Rudd?
No. God, my brain is just not working.
Paul Newman?
In Too Fast, Too Furious, I can't remember.
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker, thank you. Yeah, he actually disables his car by shooting an electrode onto the body of it. It's the dumbest thing. This franchise is full of just the dumbest things in human history.
Yeah, the fact that you react this violently to the 8th movie in this series that has gotten progressively dumber, as if you've forgotten what the previous...
I have not.
As if you've forgotten what the previous movies have done.
I have not forgotten any of them.
and yet you react like an Alzheimer's patient.
I wish that I had. That would be a benefit if I could give myself selective memory loss to wipe this franchise from my brain.
Your indignant attitude towards this, while hilarious, still confuses me. As if by now you haven't just resigned yourself to, this will be full of the dumbest things. Let me just tell you them so I can get out of here faster.
If I were a better human being, I would probably go that route.
Here, folks, I'm going to do a 2-hour plot synopsis telling you everything I hate because I hate myself and all of you. Tune in, light a candle.
Pretty much. So, anyway, Idris Elba and his army shows up. They are bested by the power of Roman Reigns' singular ab, because if I might quote the great Scott Steiner, he's fat. There's a stupid chase sequence.
Can I get some Steiner math on that?
No.
Oh.
No. That's coming up. Because
okay.
then there's the helicopter chase.
Yes.
Wherein they lasso a helicopter with a chain, and a bunch of other cars wind up linking themselves together to create enough weight to stop the lift of the helicopter.
Right.
Now, you see, Mark, Idris Elba knows...
You got Mr. Wizard on a roll, Mark.
Idris Elba knows the lift force of his helicopter is 333,000 pounds. But he also knows that as soon as The Rock and Jason Statham have attached their vehicle to his, you got to cut that in half. And he's got Vanessa Kirby in the helicopter, so you can take her 33 1/3% of the total weight that's about to be lifted and just throw it out the window. Then you get Roman Reigns to show up, and again, he's fat. As soon as he hooks on, you can take that 333,000 reduced by half, cut it in half again. By the time the fourth one shows up and hooks on, it's just mathematically impossible for this thing to stay in the air.
It makes sense.
In point of fact, it doesn't.
Yep.
The helicopter crashes. Everyone survives because, helicopter crashes falling down.
It's just a helicopter crash.
Several hundred feet onto the hard ground, absent any form of internal restraint.
All 33 pounds of Vanessa Kirby was in the Mi-6. She can survive a helicopter crash. And Idris Elba, as he says in the movie, is Black Superman. It's fine.
I was okay with Idris Elba surviving. Everyone else, no. They're dead.
Come on. Again, Vanessa Kirby is at least 33 pounds. She floated down like a pixie.
Do I have to go over again how the weight in question does not actually affect the pull of gravity?
No. What really happened is all of them started chanting "light as a feather."
Yeah, she was saved by the witches of the craft.
Exactly.
Oh God, why would you remind me of the existence of that? Anyway,
You know they're rebooting that movie, right?
I do.
With guys, like how they did Ghostbusters with females, they're doing the craft with guys.
Oh, I hadn't heard that part. They're gender swapping it?
Yeah, and if you believe me, Mark, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona.
Oh, damn it.
Thank you. Jason, you should have said it, and at least 2 of them are gay, and then he would have just not even questioned it.
Yeah, I'd have been like, is one of them trans? Because, okay, then it makes sense.
There's a transgender dude that's a leader. 2 Asians and a North Korean.
It makes sense.
As though North Koreans aren't Asian. Okay, good to know. Anyway, they engage in a fight.
Was one of them Mindy Kaling?
No, never.
Because if she's in it, then I totally believe it.
Mindy Kaling is terrible. Stop. They engage in a fight where Hobbs and Shaw realize that the power of friendship is really all they need, by which I actually mean, coordinated offense of 2 people against a singular opponent, which will always win. They're able to defeat Idris Elba, but Jason Statham, because now instead of actually being a cold-blooded killer who gleefully chased Dominic Toretto across the entire freaking globe trying to kill him for mangling his little brother, decides, you know what, I already shot you in the head once, but no, I'm not going to do it this time because character retcon.
He wanted to be, he's evolving. He wants to be a better person.
Stop it.
Hold on. He killed the only likable character in the Fast and Furious franchise, and that was Han.
Han was not likable.
I liked Han.
Okay, I don't care. He was not likable.
I'm starting to like him more than I like you right now, Robert.
Look, you've never actually met the actor. Don't get on me. The fact that he was the only memorable thing out of Tokyo Drift is like being the world's tallest midget. That movie is ridiculously
We're so close to his plots not just being over.
Anyway, they defeat Idris Elba. Idris Elba's computer is shut down remotely by the director, who then ominously hacks the sound system of the wrecked helicopter to deliver an ominous message. But The Rock won't have any of that and delivers one back. The virus is finished extracting from Vanessa Kirby. They turn it over to the CIA. And I just have to wonder if the entire point of this movie is to keep that out of dangerous hands, why in God's name you would give it to Ryan Reynolds?
Because he's a CIA agent.
Stop it.
Because Ryan Reynolds is the greatest thing to happen to Canada and the United States.
Okay. I know your life is difficult, Jason. But there's no justification for that sentence.
He is a national treasure.
No.
Let me ask you, are you doing your own bit and it just happens to be the same as Gavin's, or are you stealing Gavin's bit?
No, I think I've liked Ryan Reynolds since Two Guys That Grow on a Pizza Place.
Okay, I don't know when Gavin became homosexually obsessed with Ryan Reynolds, so I can't say, you're stealing from him or not. I'll believe you. It's fine.
Anyway, The Rock reconnects with his family, brings his daughter to meet her bevy of uncles and her grandmother for the first time. Jason Statham and Vanessa Kirby make up. They break their mother out of jail, because why in the world would you even jail Helen Mirren to begin with? And to close, we get a supposed comedy bit where Ryan Reynolds just continues his his theoretically hilarious man crush on The Rock. And then at the very end, we see The Rock repay the name gag from Jason Statham earlier by changing his false identity to Hugh Janus.
I read something recently.
And the audience weeps for having sat through this.
Nobody wept in the theater I was in. I read something.
You were the only person in the theater you were in.
That's not true. I brought my wife and kids.
Nobody in the living room I was sitting in and watched it.
So, third time. I was reading an article recently about how some of the Marvel scripts are developed, and then that, I believe it was Marvel, they talked about like action sequences, and they kind of write the script around those, but they do, they plot out on like flashcards, like different action sequences they want in the movie. And I have the funny feeling that the script for this was a picture book of action scenes that they wanted to do, and the rest was comedy improv. Like, there's maybe an exposition dump or two that Vanessa Kirby has to deliver or something like that, or maybe even Ryan Reynolds at one point. But I think for the rest of it, it was people just were told to show up on set when sets were built, or a green screen was set up, and they were like, okay, deliver, here's the gist of what we need done here. Like, it is amazing to me that this movie comes across less scripted than the average episode of Monday Night Raw.
I refuse to believe anyone wrote this movie.
It's credited with a writer.
I don't care. They did that for union purposes.
Two people. Screenplay by Chris Morgan and Drew Pearce. So two people actually wrote a shooting script. And Chris Morgan is the one that developed the story. So there.
I believe this to be a lie.
I mean,
this is an elaborate cover-up so that the Screenwriters Guild does not get on them.
Well, I did say that I think most of this was just pictures of, various stunts they wanted to perform, considering the director, who also apparently directed John Wick, so there's that.
I don't think... Hang on, I need to double-check that.
No, David Lech.
No. He co-directed. That is not the same thing.
Directorial debut co-directed with Chad Stahelski.
Yeah. Look, the best thing he's actually directed is Atomic Blonde.
Which was not bad. We actually reviewed that.
I enjoyed a lot of that.
No, he also directed Deadpool 2. See, he's fine.
No. Deadpool 2 is ass.
Deadpool 2 is fantastic.
We reviewed this. We already had the argument. Go into the archives, listen to why I'm right, listen to why Mark is Mark.
Okay, so he's the second unit director, which typically does like a lot of action sequences and basically like a lot of stunts and stuff like that. So he was the second unit director.
No, screw this guy. I'm looking at this list.
Oh,
second unit director for, in order here, In Hell, The Midnight Meat Train, which had no real action to speak of, Ninja Assassin, which I did see, King of Fighters, the 2011 version of The Mechanic, the 2011 version of Conan the Barbarian, which is so bad it should be studied.
With Bob Sapp.
In Time, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, because we all know that just the life expectancy for a diabetic at that point in time in history was so great. Anchorman 2, The Wolverine, the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Hitman sequel, and the Turtle... No, screw this guy.
No, fuck you for skipping over the two big ones, Jurassic World and Civil War.
Okay. Jurassic World also sucked, and he probably had enough oversight on Civil War to not drag it into the gutter.
Can you believe this guy, Jason?
Mom, Dad, would you guys quit fighting so I can, have a peaceful night's sleep, and I don't have to hear you guys smack each other around while I hide behind the couch?
It's amazing how often we get that when we have a guest on this podcast. I mean, Alexis at this point has taken to literally asking if we're done and she can come out of the corner now. All right, look, let me say my piece on this without interruption. Chris Bailey. Despite my colleagues' adherence to strict rules of physics, let me talk about the craft of this movie. Yes,
doesn't exist. Sorry, something caught in my throat. I apologize.
Chris Bailey. There are some elements of craft that were acceptable, even competent.
Baseline competence is our new gold standard. Sorry.
Let us remember that we are dealing in the action genre, commiserate to Commando in the 80s. Just the idiot level of action that has mass appeal, where you have a lot of fighting and a lot of bullets flying, and nothing really realistic happens on screen, but it's a big crowd pleaser. It's satisfying. That's what we're going for here. So the craft has to adhere to that line of competency. I'm not in any way saying this was a well-made film, in the realm of something nominated for an Oscar. I'm saying
No.
they had to get to Commando standard. Does it succeed in that? Mostly.
No.
The writing, like I said, is probably the worst element of this. The actual script writing, because a lot of it seemed like they just had the actors come on the set and Ryan Reynolds' whole bit with The Rock just seemed like they were what's the word I used?
Improv.
Thank you. I lost it there for a second. Like they were just doing a lot of improv. It looks like The Rock and Jason Statham stuff, a lot of it was improv. It seemed like the only person that was allowed to read from the script was award-winning actress Vanessa Kirby, who can be seen in the first 2 seasons of The Crown. The kid probably didn't do any improv. The kid was probably given some lines the day she got on the set and said, "Here, just say this shit here." The stuff between Helen Mirren and Jason Statham was probably scripted. But again, a lot of this I'm sure was written on the fly. A lot of it was, I'm sure, edited, was rewritten as they were shooting. You didn't come for any of that, though. You came to see the stunts. And so the 3 big set pieces, 3 or 4 big set pieces. You have the beginning of the movie where the whole MI6 team gets obliterated. All that looked fine. As for in terms of villains and plots go, they kept it relatively simple. Here's the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin is the person. So there you have you're supposed to at least have an interest in Vanessa Kirby, who's a pretty white lady, and you don't want her to get killed. Good enough for most people. You have a bad guy who they gave enhancements to, and so there were a lot of cool shots of him doing the kind of RoboCop thing where, you get his point of view, and his point of view is computerized, and it's got targeting things on it, and kind of it's an update to the standard villain in these kinds of movies. And Idris Elba has charisma for days, so his performance is fine.
Hold on. If you want to give Vanessa Kirby credit for mediocre awards, you have to say that you have to give Idris Elba credit for the actual awards he's won.
Okay, award-winning actor Idris Elba and one of the stars of my favorite show, The Wire.
Which you won nothing.
Bingo. I'm glad you bingo.
Look, Idris Elba is a phenomenal actor, and he was given the role of scene-chewing villain. He had a cool look. He was given fairly cool dialogue to repeat. He gives enough of a performance that you're interested in seeing this character be taken down by a army of Samoans and Jason Statham. It's fine. It's all fine. So, again, if you're into Ryan Reynolds doing Ryan Reynolds stuff, the stuff he does with The Rock, I guess, is funny. If you're not, it's exhausting and it's terrible.
It goes
and it goes on forever. It's like there was nobody editing on this. Clearly, everybody involved in making this movie was in love with the performers and just let them do whatever they want. The Rock wants to do a trip to Samoa. He gets a trip to Samoa. Ryan Reynolds wants to do gay on The Rock. He gets to gay on The Rock. It's all fine. So let's talk about the main event of this thing. The Odd Couple. The Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor of this thing. The Rock and Jason Statham. And again, I think they were told, hey, be pissy with one another in this scene. And they just turned the camera on and let magic happen. I bet there's shit tons of footage on the cutting room floor of just them cracking each other up.
I would have loved to have seen the outtakes from just that scene where they're when they meet each other for the first time in the CIA and just express how much they hate each other.
I'm sure but like I said, I'm sure there was no scripting there. It was a kind of bullet points, and then they're like, okay, we got this, and then it's just whatever made the most sense and was, the most kid friendly. And they just let that, and they kept that stuff and
dragging your balls through broken glass is kid friendly.
Oh, it's fine. So anyway, look, the Jason Statham and The Rock, as proven in the previous Fast and the Furious films have a certain degree of chemistry together. They're fun guys. They're both action heroes. This was an experiment to see if they could exist on their own without the Fast and the Furious franchise around them. It remains to be seen if it works. But they basically, this was one of these films where it was like, we have this idea. What if we just let this idea take on a life of its own and see if it makes money? There are moments where they try to get The Rock to do some dramatic acting. There are moments where they get Jason Statham to try to be vulnerable. It doesn't really work. Neither one of them are that good of an actor. But
that's not. Hang on. I take issue with that. I think they are just drastically not put in a position to accomplish those goals in this movie.
Look, you want to take my usual get out of jail on this, and either they weren't directed appropriately or they can't act. It's one of those two.
They're not directed appropriately. I've seen I've seen both The Rock and Jason Statham do the things you're saying they were trying to do here.
Well, they didn't do them well here, so
I am aware of that.
So we'll go with their performances are a bit uneven. And they weren't directed very well. Again, the movie was directed by a second unit director, so that's what you get. I'm sure this was. I don't think George Lucas would have done a better job. Okay, because he can't manage human beings either. The stuff with Vanessa Kirby is fine. She's a fine actress. There's no issues there. Let's talk about the only reason why anyone went to go see this movie, besides the two actors, quote unquote, that were billed as the headliners, and that's the stunts. You have, like I said, you have the bit in the beginning with Vanessa Kirby, which establishes her as the damsel in distress, and the MacGuffin. It was fine. No big deal there. You have the bit with the CIA being torn up, and then the escape with Idris Elba. As silly as it might have looked, and as unbelievable as it was, it also looked cool, I think, to the average person. I think the next one is the bit there's the bit in Russia where they blow up the Edion, one of the Edion headquarters.
They blow up 3 square miles of material, Mark.
Again, it was there's a lot of footage from the trailer from that scene alone, from that set piece, and there's a reason why. It looks cool. It seems to have been competently done. I don't see boom mics in the shots.
You didn't look closely enough.
Shut up. They weren't like. Shut the fuck up. They weren't like crazy edits to where in my opinion, Chris Bailey.
Today, Junior.
Where the action was unreadable. This was not a Michael Bay Transformers film by any stretch of the imagination, at least near as I could tell. And then finally, you have the big Samoan standoff, and the chase with the helicopter, and it all looks very cool. And it ends with the fight scene where they figure if one of them takes a hit, the other one can hit the guy. And gleefully, thankfully, after 2 hours of this, that fight scene doesn't go that long. They end it short enough to where it's a deserved length, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. So all in all, if you're looking for stupid commando fare, I think this was successful in being an entertaining commando-esque action movie. Your review, Jason.
Hold on. Might I make one suggestion to people looking for entertaining commando-esque fare?
You may.
Watch Commando, don't watch this.
Yeah, so listen to Lana before she got on Twitter. It's great.
Commando's a better written movie.
Go ahead, Jason.
Like me and Mark, I told you off air, Mark, this is probably one of the personal top 3 Fast and Furious movies universe that I liked. Not saying that bar is very high, but you knew what you was getting going into it. You knew you was going to get outrageous stunts, nothing that made sense, and pretty much The Rock and Jason Statham being dicks to each other. That pretty much sums up the movie for me. I mean, I didn't go in with high hopes. I mean, I've learned, especially when I'm the 4th choice to be on a panel to cover for Robert.
Shut the fuck up, you passive-aggressive son of a bitch.
I mean, hell, you asked Pat Mullen before me, and we know that if it's nothing related to the 80s, Pat doesn't want to do it.
Does this have a point?
Much like his movie, no.
Yes.
So I mean, when you're fourth in line to cover a movie, and it takes you 3 times to watch it from your living room, you kind of know what to expect. It's the beginning of an extended universe, unfortunately. Yes, they're talking about making more of these. Please, God, no. I'm curious if they want to bring the kid from Tokyo Drift in to be the third wheel next time. The only things
No Lucas Black. Never.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious if they're going to combine universes with Godzilla, seeing as they're both Universal.
I sure hope so. Maybe this becomes
only if Godzilla nukes them all with atomic breath.
I want to see like Vic Toretto and his whole team just driving Dom Toretto.
Yes.
Vin Diesel. I want to see Groot just driving a whole bunch of cars like off a cliff into Godzilla like missiles.
Well, how about they just like drive like at ridiculous angles up his back to drop some kind of neutralizer in his mouth.
You know what's also a Universal cinematic franchise is the Dark World. So we can get like Van Helsing and Dracula. What if Dracula drives a car, right? Drives a race car up Godzilla's tail and bites him on the neck and makes him a vampire Godzilla.
Better yet, what if Jekyll and Hyde, one was part of the Fast and Furious team, one was against them, and they had to figure out which one was which?
Oh, like a double agent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll set on Skull Island in the midst of the battle between King Kong and Godzilla.
What if Godzilla and King Kong are driving race cars?
I hate you both so much.
But you were reviewing the movie, Jason, and I interrupted you. Please continue.
No, I'm done. I mean, we've got here.
Your review was it took me 3 times and you picked me last. Thanks.
My review is I was the 4th in line to get this due to, Robert possibly being unavailable. And Mark does not think of me well enough to ask me. In the midst of a conversation, I said, look, I want to do movie reviews. Thanks, Mark. I'm surprised he didn't message Jesse and ask
why you think Jewish guilt's going to work on me. I'm Jewish. I have armor.
It's true.
Okay.
You can't hit the Jew with Jewish guilt unless you're a literal Jewish mother.
Well, I mean, I'll drop a bucket of pennies in front of you and wait my turn.
There you go. That might get me to notice you.
Exactly. Think I got more money.
All right. If we can stop making racist Jew jokes. Are you done?
Well, I mean, my wife did say my bald spot looks like a yarmulke. We'll go with that.
Robert, now what is your subjective opinion of this movie?
Okay.
In 50 words or less.
Can I just repeat it stinks 25 times?
No. We can move on to the money. I'm fine with that.
Okay,
We've
no.
been doing this an hour now.
Okay, I will try very hard to be specific and succinct with this. Let me be clear. So, in the interest of clarity, everything that I'm about to say now is not based in objective reality. Okay? I am not critiquing the craft. I've already touched on that a little bit. I think it's badly written. I think it's, while not edited like you have a machine gun in your hand while you're in the cutting room, is still pretty weak in places. And I don't think the movie even maintains kind of an internal, consistent logic with itself.
Do you have any major objections to anything that I said? Other than I wasn't giving Jason Statham and your boyfriend enough credit for their acting ability.
Again, I take minor issue with the editing, but I don't want it's a small enough point. I don't want to go into it.
Okay, so do your thing.
So, okay, the following is just my experience. This movie was dead to me from the opening sound of the score Because I don't know why they got Mushmouth to try and do a version of Time in a Bottle, but that was awful. Legitimately the worst version of that song I've heard. Just absolutely terrible. Most of the fight scenes, not the big action set pieces, but a lot of the fight choreography is meh, especially the last half. Excluding the big, the final fight scene with all three of our primary participants, it's kind of a mess. It's just the entire Samoan fight scene is badly edited and takes its influences very, very clearly from pro wrestling because...
Wow!
Because reasons.
By the way, can I tell you my favorite part of this entire movie experience was my wife elbowing me after he called one of his brothers Oos. And he was like, "Oh, does Uso mean brother? Is that why they're called the Usos?" And my eyes rolled so hard into the back of my head, I almost rolled down the stairs of the theater.
Yeah. Wow.
I love my wife. She's the best. Go on.
Okay. That actually derailed my train of thought. Wow. Again, a lot of the fight scenes are just, again, they're not very well put together. The gunplay is uninteresting. The big chase sequence through London is probably the best action piece in the movie. A, low bar. B, even on its own merits, it's pretty solid. There's some really interesting driving. The Rock gets to grab someone off of a motorcycle traveling in the opposite direction at speeds, I imagine, around 35 to 40 miles an hour. And not destroy every bone, ligament, and muscle in his arm. So, again, that one's okay. The rest of them just... They go on too long. There's too much very obvious CGI. I mean, everything when they're kind of driving away from the exploding, decommissioned power plant is very obviously them in front of a green screen. I mean... Now, I don't just mean that in the sense that, okay, we all know they didn't actually blow anything up, but really, like, there's no actual depth to the shots. It's like, oh, there's the screen. It's exactly 6 inches behind them. Which was a lot of, ugh. I have never, in my life, to the best of my recollection, enjoyed Ryan Reynolds in anything. So he shows up, and I kind of want to just die. And then he keeps talking.
You know, it's so funny. He showed up at this, and I wanted to pull my phone out and text you, "Bail out, Maverick. You're in a tailspin."
So, and it just goes on and on and on and oh god, it's painful. Even if you like Ryan Reynolds. This is badly put together. So,
as people who listen to the Metal Hammer of Doom know, part of my repertoire of silly humor is to beat a joke, generally an unfunny joke, to death, because if there's a certain degree of hilarity in if you do the joke enough times, you'll start to make people laugh just because you won't stop doing it. And so, I don't need to get into the specifics of all of that, but, we have the horse sound, the dead horse, Camille Horsey and all of that. That scene takes every time I've done that bit, like, I don't even know how to, like, do a proper comparison to it, but suffice to say, it takes any time I've beaten a dead horse and made it look like a snappy comeback.
Yeah. That's fair. They try to shoehorn this bit of like subtext or the subplot of the Rock's estranged from his family, and Jason Statham's family's a little bit wonky because they're written so badly and inconsistently. And they kind of find a little bit of that. We get to the end, and The Rock and Jason Statham become more amenable simply because this is the point in an odd couple movie where the odd couple starts coming together. There's no actual point of reference in the movie or inciting event for those two stopping to just snipe and grouse and actively try to, undercut each other to suddenly we've got trust and familial bonds and I've got your back and I'll happily take a punch so you can give one. There's no reason for that to have happened. Absolutely none, other than it's the point in a movie like this where that happens. The Rock and Jason Statham's chemistry is good. Like, that's the best thing about this movie is when those two actually play off of each other. I wish all of their interactions had been structured better. It doesn't mean overly scripted. It doesn't mean, micromanaged. But structured instead of just, hey, go have fun.
This needs to be less Marvel movie if they're going to continue to do these things and more running scared.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I actively dislike all the music in this movie. Just all of it. The whole I don't know why this movie is over 2 hours. Can you explain that to me, Mark?
The action scenes are lengthy, and the bits of dialogue that are obviously improv are allowed to go on for far too long.
Yeah, this movie should not be this long. Someone has to cut something somewhere in the editing room. It's literally your job.
No, this is a case of no adults were making this picture.
Absolutely none. Just none. It's
this is what happens if Cody Rhodes, Tony Khan, and the Young Bucks made a movie. It would be this movie.
No, it wouldn't.
I don't know. Did anyone land on their head for no apparent reason?
If they were to make a movie, it would just be a Michael Bay Transformers. Probably Age of Extinction.
Not taking the bait.
Dark Side of the Moon.
No. You see, Dark Side of the Moon spends the first half of that movie doing absolutely nothing. And as we all know, the Young Bucks are incapable of actually doing nothing.
All right. I made a joke. I took a swing for the fences. I hit the catcher. Move on.
You hit the umpire.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, again, if you're interested in a movie like this, there's just 18,000 better options.
I've named a few. Commando, Running Scared, anything with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. All right, Jason, I rudely, I think, cut you off at the end of your sobbing rant about how you got picked last in dodgeball. So is there anything else you'd like to say before we move on?
I haven't cried for a long time.
Next time that we need a substitute, I hope I'm not picked at least higher than the fourth option.
Keep mentioning it in your league.
I figured I'm slotted in that cleanup spot anyway. But no, I mean this movie it's a mishmash of explosions. It has really no plot. It is what it is. It's a Fast and Furious movie that with one muscle head instead of the other. I mean, in all honesty.
All right.
I mean, you switched out Vin Diesel for The Rock.
In fairness, that is a technical upgrade.
I mean, yeah, it's an upgrade when given the proper direction, not just hey, we're going to put you guys in a room and we're going to just film it and something happens.
I'm going to have to find out who wrote Atomic Blonde, because whoever did that...
Well, that was based on a comic. They had source material to work from.
No. I know, but they also diverged significantly from it in massive places. I need to know who wrote that, because whatever the script was for that managed to rein in all the crap that this director has done and everything else he's done.
I was going to say, like, it's weird because Atomic Blonde really does stick out as being very stylistic and being very slick in the way that it was done, and you wouldn't think that this hack who does stunts was the one that came up with what was a fairly intelligent movie. With that said, here comes the money.
Here comes the money. Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All right. Well, Wikipedia tells me that this had a budget of $200 million, though I've heard it was upwards of $300, so
Hold
who the hell
on.
knows?
Wikipedia is lying because it is absolutely not counting bits of the advertisement budget and other printings. The actual budget for this movie, when you factor in everything, was, I believe, $360 million.
So Universal absolutely is banking on this being, this is like Batman v Superman. It doesn't really matter what the budget was; it has to make $1 billion. This is the one movie I think Universal was counting on to kind of lift the rest of its movies. You know, this is the wave that was supposed to pick up the entire studio for the year. This is its Jurassic Park, and I don't know if it's going to do it because right now it's only at 184.9 million as of this recording.
In fairness to that point, there are still at least two major markets it has not opened in. One of them is China.
All right. Well, then we might see a vast improvement once it does that. But right now, I don't think the States is really taken to this movie all that well. It was the number one movie of the weekend. Let me be fair about that. It knocked Lion King out of its number one spot. So, Lion King, which has already crossed $1 billion. By the way, I got told right before we went on air that Disney stock took a hit because apparently, despite the fact that 4 or 5 of their pictures this year made over $1 billion and one made almost $3 million, they didn't hit their numbers. And I was trying to, and sometimes my
Whoa!
What was their numbers?
yeah, that was my next question. And he was like, "Well, they weren't going to report that in their conference call." I'm like, "No, I understand that, Dad, but But still, but I want to know. Like I need someone to do Vanessa Kirby hacking and get me those numbers because I got to know what their projections were then. What the was Dumbo supposed to crack $1 billion?
If they were planning that, then they were. That's just. I mean, that's so profoundly stupid.
But that's what they were off by. They were off by $1 billion. And when you think about, like, Toy Story's almost hit $1 billion, I guess they're not counting Spider-Man, so, you know, we'll credit that to Sony, even though I wouldn't.
I will not be doing that, but okay.
Well, again, now you have to talk reality.
Did they expect Captain Marvel to hit 2?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, again, Endgame, 2.794, Lion King, 1.2 billion, Captain Marvel, 1.128 billion, Aladdin, 1.026 billion, Toy Story 961 million.
Yeah, I mean I gotta look and see what else they've put out this year that didn't. I mean I think Dumbo was at least profitable, but minimally. I don't know. Like I don't know how could they have been off by $1 billion. What were their other projections? So we'll round back to that because it's about the only other interesting thing I have to talk about in the money section. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Sony's other big picture this year. Fell from 2 to 3, Spider-Man 3 to 4, Toy Story 4 to 5. Yesterday, love was such an easy game to play. Stayed at number 6. The Farewell went from 10 to 7, Crawl 5 to 8, Aladdin 7 to 9, Annabelle Comes Home 9 to 10, and rounding out the top 20, Pets, Stuber, Midsommar, Avengers Endgame, Rocketman, John Wick 3, Maiden, Men in Black International, Luce, and Godzilla. In its second week in the number 20 spot.
Yeah, the only other... you're correct. Dumbo's the only other thing they released that, you know, kind of cratered. Everything else is still to come.
Yeah, they still have...
They still have... Hang on. They still have Maleficent.
Right.
They still have Frozen 2.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Hang on. Did they move Star Wars? It did not show up.
Star Wars is like December 19th.
That is so... Hang on. That's so weird. I don't know why it's not showing up for me.
So I'm going to
It's there. Why is that only listed as Lucasfilm / Bad Robot?
I don't know.
It's a Disney... never mind.
So I'm looking at the 2019 worldwide grosses, and I'm just looking at Buena Vista, which is Disney. And yeah, out of the 6 pictures released this year, Toy Story's almost hit $1 billion. The only one that did nothing was Dumbo. What was the budget on Dumbo? 170 million. So,
Alright.
so it
That-
was
that was
barely
selling for
profitable. What was that, Jay?
I'm sitting here looking at a list, and the only things I see that it's got Dark Phoenix listed under Disney.
You know
Got
what?
Spider-Man.
Okay.
Okay, now this makes sense. I didn't even
Disney
think of
ate
that.
if Disney ate that one, then okay, that's where it's coming.
Yeah.
from.
It's like if they're
And
being
nothing-
credited with all the Fox losses, that explains it.
That explains. Yeah, that absolutely
Yeah,
explains why they're a
this-
billion short.
This one's showing Dark Phoenix. Hell, it's showing New Mutants on here, and some movie called Penguins.
Okay, so
Well, Penguins was a Disney nature thing.
okay, so hang on. 2019 worldwide grosses for Fox for the year 2019, as I just said. You have Alita Battle Angel, that was profitable. That made 400 million. Then Dark Phoenix, which lost shit tons of money. Breakthrough made 50 million. The Kid Who Would Be King, 32 million. It's Stuber, 30 million, which is the Batista Indian guy driving around movie.
So if they're counting the Fox stuff in with theirs, then yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no. Suddenly this becomes very clear why this fucking wow. Well, I guess
Because,
they
Dark
they-
Phoenix tanked majorly.
you know what? Maybe they're thinking, you know what? We'll take the hit on this, and we'll take the losses on the Fox movies, because when Disney Plus comes out, especially once it's bundled with ESPN and Hulu, everyone will buy it, and suddenly their stock will go up again, and they'll have all of this content, which is the whole reason they bought Fox in the first place. So there you go. Mystery fucking solved.
And Frozen 2 and Star Wars are going to be
Yeah.
$50 movies.
I'm not sure. You know what? I've seen enough backlash to Frozen that I'm not sure anymore. I mean, it's still going to do well, but I think enough people have actually realized, there's fans of them. Like, how many people are fans of Frozen, and how many people are just fans of, like, 2 songs in the movie?
It depends, because Disney princess movies have a cachet all their own, and it doesn't really matter who the princess is in most cases. So, Frozen still has a lot of. Frozen continued to make fans as infants grew to be little girls, in the years since that movie came out. They've since reconfigured Norway to be basically Frozen Land in the park. So again, you've got more in the subsequent years since Frozen came out. The little girls who saw that movie have only gotten a little bit older, while the girls that were just born are now became fans. It hasn't been that long. I think
I got a serious question though.
Go ahead.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
It doesn't have to be a snowman.
You wonder why you got picked last. All right.
That's
okay,
that's a callback from when you first became friends, Mark.
I understand that. But it isn't funny unless Robert Cooper's doing it in his Bane voice, and it's "Do you want to kill the Batman?" which I sing at work, by the way. I'll actually be in the jail singing to the nurses, "Do you want to kill the Batman?" And they're like, "What are you doing?" All right. So back to
the version that you want to hide a body.
So as for how well this is going to do in the forthcoming weeks, none of the movies coming out next week bite into this audience, but there's a lot. But by the same token, there's so many movies coming out next week that it'd be hard to tell if people are going to bother with Hobbs and Shaw. You've got The Art of Racing in the Rain for those of you who like dogs. You've got Brian Banks for those of you who like black people. You've got Dora and the City of Lost Gold for those of you who will have children. You have The Kitchen for me and Jesse, and then you have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark for those of you who like horror. It's kind of a everyone going to the movie. It's kind of 100 people go to the movies, and like 20 of them see one, 20 of them, 20. It's kind of a long tail of movie attendance next weekend. The following week is 47 Meters Down, Blinded by the Light, Good Boys, and Where'd You Go, Bernadette. So only people going to see shark horror movies are going to be going to the movies. No one's going to see the rest of those 3.
I don't know. That Good Boys movie might actually do decent.
That seems like one where everyone would wait for Redbox or for digital. I don't think it does well in the theater. Angry Birds 2 comes out on a Wednesday. On a Wednesday for some odd reason.
Apparently, it is currently the highest-rated video game adaptation of all time.
Yeah, it's apparently rated higher than Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Gesundheit.
So, hey, you know what franchise movie sequel I didn't put on the calendar, and it's because we've just filled it up with TV stuff that I didn't see the point. That, and I didn't want to torture you. You know what I didn't put on there, Robert Winfree? You gonna take a guess?
No.
Angel Has Fallen.
Oh, that looks like it's going to be decent.
Yeah, that's part of the whole Olympus Has Fallen, Washington's Fallen,
I know.
I've Fallen, and I Can't Get Up franchise.
Again, for as much as I genuinely enjoyed Olympus Has Fallen as the best Die Hard movie since the original Die Hard, London Has Fallen took a turn for the really stupid.
It fell short.
And I much as I love Gerard Butler killing people, I really do. If I see Angel Has Fallen, it's probably going to be, when it comes out on some kind of streaming service. I don't think I'm going to go out of my way to see it.
I didn't feel like it was necessary for us to go to do the own damn you Hollywood.
I would have seen it.
Oh, are you asking me to put it back on the schedule?
You can if you want.
I don't. And then we've got Don't Let Go, Saho, and then nothing good. Nothing after next weekend is halfway decent coming out until It Chapter 2, and that's going to be the next big one. So, how any of that cuts into Hobbs and Shaw, by this point, kids are starting to go back to school. Summer blockbuster fatigue, which started in April of 1976, fatigue starting to set in here. It's hard to say if this even cracks 500 million, let alone the billion that I think Universal is targeting. So I don't have a tremendous amount of faith here.
I don't know. I mean, again, this could hit really big in China.
That's the feeling that's going to save it, I think.
That is very accurate. I think, again, you're going to get if you can get into a couple of those other big markets, again, China, maybe India. I don't know. Again, I know it hasn't opened in China. I know it hasn't yet opened in France. There's at least one other relatively major market it hasn't opened in yet.
So you figure if half the people in any market it hasn't opened yet overseas go to see this movie, it does fine. But that's why it does fine. Just the sheer masses of ticket sales.
Yeah, this is not generating a tremendous amount of buzz. Everyone in the States, I think, who's going to see it has probably seen it already.
Right. That's more my point. Everybody else is stealing it on Cody.
So they're really praying for, the global box office rather than the domestic box office.
And that's largely who I think it was made for. I don't really think this was targeting American audiences. I think they thought, well, the Fast and the Furious franchise kind of exists at this point on foreign money.
The last one did.
Assume this one we assume will too. So, changing my point of view to how will the world approach this movie versus the U.S. You're right. It probably cracks 500 million just based on foreign markets. We'll see what happens.
But
deal with it
needs
over
to
time.
hit again. I think in order to really be profitable, you're looking at a movie that has to hit the 700 to 800 million mark at a minimum.
Honestly, I think Universal is depressed and misses the target unless the thing hits $1 billion.
Yeah. So, look, a bunch of executives jump out of their penthouse windows, a la stockbrokers during the crash.
All right. With that said,
that would probably get Universal over the limit if we just videoed it.
Maybe. All right, folks. Our last segment of the evening.
But I just gotta know one thing. Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
Alexis isn't here, so I can hit the old standards again. Would you believe, Jason? Would you believe, Jason? She called me out for being a hackneyed hack because I keep going to the same people. Called the act cliche. Can you believe that?
It is.
It is. I mean, you know.
Fifth. You're now fifth in line. I'm going to ask Andrew Graham before you. Richard Roper of Chicago.
Yeah, but he'll
Sun-Times.
never say yes.
Well, neither does Pat most of the time.
I mean, I'm surprised you didn't ask Sean before me.
Well, let's not get crazy. Top grit. Moving on. Top critic. The cardboard standees of these guys in movie theaters across the world will have just as much depth.
I agree.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Kevin Marr of the Times UK, top critic. Don't let the trailer fool you. It's pants, parentheses, insert crotch joke here.
I mean, that's what the trailers promise, so why are the trailers fooling you?
Yeah, I don't know what he thinks they're selling.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't misleading. You see, like, the whole helicopter scene.
They
the
gave
trailer.
you the movie. Watch the trailer. Save yourself 2 hours.
2 hours and 15 minutes.
My son liked it, but he's 5. It was meant for him. My daughter, I think, preferred the trailers. Like, I was legit disappointed, and I think she kind of sighed when the Samoan War thing started, and they didn't put it, and they didn't pipe in the music from the trailer that showed that scene where she, bounces in her seat all cutesy and throws jabs. I think we were both legitimately upset that they didn't play that music.
That music would have sucked too, so I don't know why they didn't either. They didn't have a better score in the wings.
They probably couldn't afford to put it in the movie. They could only probably afford the trailer.
They could afford Mushmouth's cover of Time in a Bottle, though. Got that.
Which Mushmouth are you referring to?
Whoever sang their version of Time in a Bottle. I don't know who did it. But
haven't looked either.
I call him I say Mushmouth because everything was an FR. Like, every single conjunction that he said while singing the song was an FR. It was terrible.
Katie Walsh of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, top critic. While director David Leitch, a former stuntman who helmed John Wick and Atomic Blonde, cooks up some truly breathtaking action sequences and stunts,
He does not.
some moments lose their crisp clarity.
Okay, look. This movie has so little in common with the action sequences that make stuff like John Wick or Atomic Blonde work, they might as well be on a different planet.
All right, and now a word from Robert Winfree's mother, Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate.
Ugh.
Silly and shallow. It spins its wheels for an exhausting 135 minutes, concluding with a setup for a sequel.
I mean, look, again, I hate stupid sequel bait as much as anyone. But if you're not, like, why is that a negative criticism if you're being objective? I complain about it when I go off about what I don't like in movies. Of course they're throwing sequel bait into this movie. They want to make a spin-off franchise.
Yeah, they can only race cars for so long.
Yeah, exactly one movie.
Chelsea Steiner of The Mary Sue.
Oh, God. Why don't you just call it the Captain Marvel and just get it over with?
Even potentially exciting sequences like the Samoan battle with traditional weaponry is dulled by quick editing and uninspired filmmaking.
That's true.
How about you just find good reviews so me and Robert can just disagree with them?
Your wish is my command, sir.
We're kind of agreeing with most of these.
Annie Bundle of NBC News, think in capital letters. Think.
Okay, nope. You write for that outlet, you are a trash person.
The Jason Statham, Dwayne Johnson film is still the most entertaining the franchise has been in years.
Hang on. Gotta think about this because we're talking years, so we say 3 years, give or take, 3 to 4.
Yeah.
What did we get from the primary franchise in that period of time? We got 7 and 8. You know what? I'm not gonna die on the hill saying she's wrong.
Christopher Mako of Cineview. Taste schmaced. Niceties like coherent editing, or believable dialogue feel positively bourgeois. And
Is this guy really retarded?
Hang on, I just want to stress this for the people listening. Notice I didn't nor he write bougie, you fucking illiterates. It's bourgeois in the face of such wonderful nonsense.
Okay, two things. One, shame on you for using bourgeois. The writer, not you. You're just reading what he wrote. Second, I'm gonna call BS on the lack of believable dialogue. Because Mark, you and I talk to each other like that all the time.
Yeah, every show.
Like that's not an inaccurate representation of how some men talk to each other.
I was gonna say, up until recently, with what's happened with the culture, I hate to hate to tell folks, but this is how guys talk to one another.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't know why people. I mean, look again. Trump, when his response was, "Yeah, it was just locker room talk," and everyone threw a hissy fit. Don't get me wrong, it's uncouth. That doesn't mean it's inaccurate. I mean, I imagine everyone's saying, "No, I would never say that." Have you ever actually been in a locker room with a bunch of guys? Because it ain't pretty.
Again, watch 5 minutes of The Deer Hunter. Christopher Walken walks into the scene telling a dirty joke, and everyone's just giddy, positively giddy. And later on, they'll play Russian roulette. Adam Olcese? Rave reviews. The goofy performances, excellent stunts, and assured directing from which make this film a success in that sense, even if you're left with the impression that the director would rather have had the freedom to really make this movie his own.
Oh, shut up. I mean this in all seriousness. What do you think he would have done differently?
Added 15 minutes of explosions.
Look, he really could have made this his own. No, he couldn't. This is what he got. I imagine there doesn't seem to have been even any reports of behind-the-scenes drama from this. There were no clashes.
The biggest behind-the-scenes drama was Tyrese talking smack about The Rock.
Tyrese sucks.
Matthew Bond of the Mail on Sunday, UK. Not so much Fast and Furious, then, as slow and familiar.
Yeah. I mean, it's a formula that has worked for, this is the 9th movie.
I'm absolutely not dignifying that terrible, terrible wordplay.
I mean,
Michael Ward of Should I See It goes from being great
no,
fun.
you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't.
Goes from being great fun to passive entertainment to ludicrous spectacle to sloppy, haphazardly arranged trash.
No, it's just that the whole time.
Yeah, there's no dropping point. It just starts at the bottom and kind of remains there.
Yeah, this movie. Well, again, I hated it. It is very even keeled in terms of its overall quality. There's the biggest thing
it starts at the bottom and kind of does donuts there.
I mean, the biggest thing is it hits a bump at one point for the London sequence, and then it's like, oh hey, now maybe I can hit that bump again, and then it just starts pushing the rock that it jumped off of.
Chrissy Loffrey of Independent UK. Hobbs and Shaw might be complete nonsense, but it also consistently fires up the brain's pleasure centers in a way that feels disarming. Like heroin. All right, I put that last part in there.
Okay.
I was going to say, it probably is equivalent to heroin.
It's not. I mean, I don't know that that's an accurate statement because not a lot of people have seen this movie, all things considered. So the notion that it's, fire really getting the old pleasure center of the brain going seems to be...
I'm not making that joke. I'm not making that joke.
I'm going to read a few of our favorites here in rapid succession. Matt Brunson of Creative Loafing.
Ugh.
Well, a Calvin and Hobbes movie might seem like a better bet.
Yes.
A Hobbs and Shaw film at least provides a fair amount of mounting excitement.
No.
Eric D. Snyder of Crooked Marquee, this
I
guy
hate
who
this man.
loves the smell of his own farts. The action is fun, but everything in between, especially Hobbs' tacked-on family issues, is tedious, and the whole thing overstayed its welcome by a good 30 minutes. Like I said, it's a Fast and Furious movie. Dick. Mark Ellis of Schmoes are paid to review movies and like them. I'm sorry, Schmoes know. I fucking hate Collider.
It moved me into a bigger house. Oh, crap. I said the loud part soft and the soft part loud.
It really adds something to the franchise. This is the movie you're paying to see. You were given copy to read, you hack.
Yeah.
Chris,
That's not a review.
Alexis Hannah's
That's
favorite
copy paste.
Alexis Hannah's favorite reviewer, Chris Stuckman of ChrisStuckman.com. Give it to me.
No.
Give it to me.
No.
Come on.
No.
Do it.
Keep going. Nope. Not doing it.
Jason,
This sounds kind of rapey.
Jason, just say the following. You self-employed hack.
No, I am not stealing Robert's thunder.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Chris Stuckman doesn't deserve my repeated gag.
I'm going to call the new guy who I got for boxing before you next time.
God.
The majority of people who see this movie know exactly what they want out of it, and this movie is going to give them that. Thanks, Chris.
Speaking of sounding rapey,
Their money back. Yes.
All right. I think we're almost done here. Let me see if I can find your dad. Oh, this is always a fun one.
my dad's actually in Ohio at the moment, I think.
Rashid Irani of the Hindustan Times, one of my favorite review sites. Fast and Furious.
These poor people just use Google Translate, I'm almost certain.
Fast and Furious 9 is just more of the
I don't
same
see it as a big.
tire screeching, glass shattering, meaningless mayhem.
Okay. Look, I hate this movie. I really didn't like it. But I knew what I was getting into. Like, what did you expect? Did you expect a severe lack of cars? You know, it would be a really bold choice, a Fast and Furious movie without the vehicles. If we set it in Kenya, it can all be about roping and long-distance running.
James Berardinelli of Real Views. There's a problem with the kinds of bloated action sequences that form the skeleton, muscle, and flesh of something like Hobbs and Shaw. A lack of excitement.
He is not wrong.
Carlo Renata of the Curvy Film Critic. Idris Elba and Vanessa Kirby steal this franchise because they're not white men. Sorry, I added that last part. From underneath, Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham with badass action and acerbic, witty dialogue. Johnson tribute to his Samoan heritage is tastefully done. What? Hobbs and Shaw keeps the franchise intact.
Okay. You know what?
Get
I'm
him,
convinced.
Robert.
I am convinced, Mark, you didn't actually add that line. She did.
And the editor took it out, or Rotten Tomatoes took it out?
Probably. That's... Okay. Look, I like Idris Elba.
He's amazing.
None of his dialogue could be described as witty or acerbic in this movie. Just none of it. He spends parts of it prattling on about the necessity of human evolution and how and the world's gonna end in 2092 because capitalism. Like, an actual line from the freaking movie. No,
All right.
not witty.
And we'll end our hackneyed bit with a moving tribute from Robert's grandfather, old man Joe Morgenstern from the Wall Street Journal.
How are you not dead? You're just so old.
The action is impressive, and the stars are personally as well as gladiatorially appealing. But the filmmakers seem to have shot the treatment instead of the script, or never bothered with the script. Yay!
He's not wrong.
He validated our entire podcast. Someone tell him. He's not on
No.
Tell whoever is managing his Twitter that he validated this entire podcast. I'm willing to say we're done now.
Yeah, we can end on that high note.
Or low
Congratulations, old man Morgenstern. The one time in your career you're being used to go out on a high note.
All right, folks. Jason, I'm going to let you plug first. Yeah, you got to be first choice tonight. Huh?
Let's see. What do I do?
What are you doing for the other site that you do podcasts for? Since you think I won't let you do podcasts here.
Well, since Mark has kicked me off, and only brings me back in emergency situations, or when he wants to be a little pansy girl and not watch a horror movie, I'm over at W2M. I'm over at W2M doing a little show called The Kickoff, and also there's still a show that's going to be done where I get drunk and discuss political stuff and whatever I feel like discussing while I'm drunk.
So Chris Bailey has said that we should start a Patreon account. And after this week, when we move back into my house and I actually have time to look at it, I'm actually Jesse and I have considered doing like a monthly podcast, something. And I've seen some people play around with this with rabbit hole idea, and it kind of started off as a joke of us from our L7 review, where we were just clicking Wikipedia links and reacting to them. This is how I learned what a Kinder Whore was. So we're thinking
what?
A Kinder Whore. Don't worry, just look it up yourself. Or listen to the L7 podcast. I would talk all about it. But I also mentioned at this time that Courtney Love murdered Kurt Cobain. Doesn't matter.
She did not.
So anyway, we were thinking of doing a Patreon exclusive podcast where that's exactly like basically called The Rabbit Hole, or we'll name to be just thought of later, where we start off.
You and Rabbit Hole associated with something could go very wrong.
Where we start with a topic and just keep clicking Wikipedia links until we've hit about an hour or so. And you're more than welcome to join us on that, because I think you drunk reacting to Wikipedia links would be hilarious.
I will sign up for that. Yes,
that is definitely the kind.
I would definitely sign off on that, because me drunk is great. If you don't believe me, ask Jesse how our NFL draft went when I got drunk and he went to take his kid to bed and I passed out during the podcast.
Well, I can't necessarily say you can't pass out during the podcast, because boy, is that calling the pot calling the kettle black. All right, plugs for shows that don't exist aside, what are you doing on wrestling on WTM? What else are you doing?
I'm over there doing the Kickoff. I'll actually be doing a guest spot toward the end of the month on Golden Sports Network with my friend Robert Foster, covering the NFL upcoming season. And you can catch me next week doing a review right here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network with Alexis and Robert as we cover a horror movie that Mark is too scared to watch.
So, how are you expecting me to call you for podcasts when you're so in demand? You're like everywhere. You're showing up on everyone's podcast. How do you have time for this little old network?
Because this is where my heart lies, Mark. You gave me my start, and I will always come back to you like an abusive wife comes home to.
So full of shit. All right. So yesterday we did Patsy Walker, a.k.a. Hellcat, on Source Materials. Myself, Evan Bevins, and Jesse Starcher. Tomorrow, myself and Jesse Starcher will be reviewing the new Volbeat, Rewind, Replay, Rebound. We probably won't trash this album like we did the previous one, but the previous one was a special level of terrible. Sean will be on the Radulich Broadcasting Network this Thursday to review Orange is the New Black, the final season. No podcast this weekend. Carl Frampton injured his hand. Victor's not available to do the fight on DAZN, so no podcasts, no boxing coverage, no MMA coverage, no nothing. Instead, I'm going to watch a lot of wrestling, and we'll talk about it while these fags talk about some stupid horror movie that nobody cares about. I'll get to that in just a moment. Meanwhile, Pat Mullen has taken a special interest in the kitchen for some odd reason. He'll be joining myself and Jesse Starcher on a live split 7-inch.
Oh, you got Pat to tear that thing apart. Yes.
Pat volunteered. Like Gonzo and
Go, Pat, go.
like Gonzo and the Great Muppet Caper. He just fucking dove in front of the car. So myself, Jesse Starcher, and Pat Mullen will read the book, we'll watch the movie, and we'll talk about it live. A live split 7-inch source material Damn You Hollywood Jam, Monday, August 12th. As the boys in the band said, they're talking scary stories to tell in the dark. At the same time, myself and the four podsmen will be talking about SummerSlam weekend. We'll look at Ring of Honor, Summer Supercard, NXT TakeOver Toronto, and the aforementioned SummerSlam. TMC of the four podsmen will be joining us on the Metal Hammer of Doom to talk Slipknot. We Are Not Your Kind. Apparently, it's the best album they've done in years. We'll be the judge of that.
Unbelievably low bar.
Sean will make his third appearance on the Radulich Broadcasting Network this August as he comes on along with Sean Garmer of the aforementioned WTM podcast to talk Glow Season 3. Myself and Jesse Starcher will be...
Remember when Glow was a thing?
We'll be doing our contribution to the Superblog team-up, which deals in immortality. That's the theme. And so we'll watch Jupiter Ascending. We'll do it for you, America. We're doing it for you, especially you American girls.
I'm so sorry that you're watching that movie.
No. They chose that movie. They had a list.
God.
We spent 20 minutes
God.
pitching Mark other movies dealing with immortality, and every time we brought something up, it's, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do
What I
that.
wanted to do was Flash Gordon, but Jesse won't buy the movie like I want him to.
See, Mark threw it. So Mark's response is to pitch a hissy fit like one of his children and go find Jupiter Ascending.
Take that, Jesse. So, listen,
God.
girls...
This is just water off... Jesse's like a duck. It's just water off his back, man. He doesn't care.
Look, girls claimed, according to the Wikipedia, girls claimed Jupiter Ascending as their own science fiction, and so we're here to support the feminist movement.
Look, they can have it.
Yes, please take it. Take it and never give back. No give backs.
No, yeah, you have to live with that decision now.
We got a double shot on the 17th of August. First, myself and David Wright will finally, like a year later, get around to Lost in Space Season 1. And then that night, Robert Winfree is going to split his brain in two. He's going to do coverage with me, as he also does written coverage for 401 Mania for the main card of Cormier versus Miocic 2. It'll be a shit show. I'm sure you'll all be entertained, and we'll never do it again. Then we've got an entire week dedicated to Swamp Thing. We've got Saga of the Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. That show's actually already in a can. It'll air on Monday. Don't get confused. We didn't really have Alan Moore on the show, though it sounds like it. You'll know when you hear it. Swamp Thing, the DC the DC Universe show, which was canceled after one season, after one episode. We'll talk about it Tuesday, August 20th.
It's also in the can.
Yeah, boy, was it canned. Metal Hammer of Doom, Human Target by Thy Art is Moida. And finally, Sean makes his fourth appearance. It's Chris Bailey. He will be doing an on-trial for Swamp Thing 1982. And then a special TV party tonight, extra we got going on here. Myself, Jesse Starcher, and motherfucking Al Sedano coming right at you. We'll be talking Good Omens from ye old Amazon Prime. I gotta get somebody to cover this 2 o'clock Sergey Kovalev, Anthony Yard fight. That's from like 2 to 5 on ESPN Plus. What time does your Shevchenko Carmouche coverage start?
I think the normal time. I was looking at it because their prelims are on ESPN Plus. So I think it's just going to be. I mean, you've got the app, right? You can just look up the start time.
I'm not going to do that right now. I was saying,
I think it starts at 5 p.m. Eastern.
So these literally could run right into each other. Yeah,
could be.
I think I'm gonna sign you up for Kovalev versus Yard.
You just got volunteered.
Look, if you don't
As long as you don't actually advertise me, then we're fine.
Wait, why?
That way, if I can't make it, if something's weird about this, then no one's disappointed.
Okay, so I'm putting on the schedule right here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network live coverage of Sergey Kovalev versus Anthony Yard on ESPN Plus. Just the main fight, the WBO World Light Heavyweight Title match. Robert Winfree will be joining me for coverage, and then as soon as it ends, he'll scoot on over to Shevchenko versus Carmouche.
Yeah, sure.
That night, if Victor
I just don't want you to be disappointed if the timing doesn't work out and I can't be there.
I mean, if you have to drop off before the fight ends, whatever. But you can do some of it.
You're not getting out of this, Robert. Have you not realized that?
Don't make me have to ask Jason. Come on, he doesn't know anything about boxing.
Actually, it would be like I will be talking Mike Tyson Punch Out the entire time.
Please don't.
Please do, actually.
Also, from the Burt Ogden Arena in Edinburgh, Texas, I believe Victor just has to clear it with his wife and his work schedule, but we might be doing some more boxing coverage that night on Fox Sports 1, Figueroa versus Chacon. So tune in for details on that when I have them. That same day is also D23. We're going to talk about it the next day with ye ol' Ronnie Adams, myself and Alexis Haina on the Screaming Boy podcast. And then finally, we end the month of August with DC First Superman Lobo, Krypton Season 2, Rage of Light and Ploder, and the Banana Splits movie, because according to some losers, I don't watch horror films. Well, I do. I just watch the ones I want to watch, the good ones. So
Load of crap.
I'll be watching the Banana Splits horror movie from the Sci-Fi Network, and we'll be talking about it that afternoon with Alexis Haina on August 29th. And finally, myself and Pat Mullen will be doing a quick review of NXT UK Cardiff. As soon as it ends, we'll do the review, and then you can scoot on over to AEW. I'm all the way out. Zip. All right. Aside from your coverage of Kovalev versus Yard, go and tell them what else you're doing.
Have you ever seen Walter wrestle?
Yeah, he was at the NXT show in New York City.
Okay, good. Because, he's like the main draw for NXT UK these days, and Walter is awesome. You can find me most Sundays hosting the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast.
Now available on Podcoin.
For those listening on Podcoin, yes, you can find it there.
I mean, really, why would you listen to the show unless someone paid you, right?
Hey, I'll become an avid Podcoin listener.
That's right.
That's what I listen to on everything.
Look, if I could find a version of their app that actually just worked on desktop, I'd be okay, but I have no phone.
What about a tablet?
Nope.
Are you ever going to join us in the 21st century, sir?
Not if I can help it.
Finish your stupid plugs.
Anyway, this last Sunday, myself and Jeffrey Harris reviewed UFC on ESPN 5. Meh. Look, it was a meh card. You had an all right main event if you like breaking some stuff down technically and you're not a fan of Robbie Lawler. You had a feel good moment in the co-main event, and I got to watch Clay Guida be choked completely unconscious, so I was happy. Other than that, it was just not a very inspiring night of fights. And speaking of uninspiring nights of fights, this Saturday, oh boy. The UFC is making their debut in the country of Uruguay. Your main event is a good main event. Valentina Shevchenko against Liz Carmouche for the UFC Women's Flyweight Championship. This is a rematch. The two fought previously, and Carmouche won via doctor stoppage due to a cut.
Hey, real quick. I've got Shevchenko versus Carmouche this Saturday. I don't have anything on the 24th.
Well, yeah, there might not be anything on the 24th.
Oh, guess what? Then you don't have any reason not to do it.
Hang on. Let me check. Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, there's the 10th, the 17th, and then the 31st. So, yeah, there is that one. There's 5 Saturdays in August, and they took one of them off.
Great. Then Then you have nothing stopping you from doing Kovalev versus Yard with me.
Apart from my desire not to increase my suicidality percentage.
That makes no never mind to me.
I am aware of that. The co-main event for that card is pretty solid, actually. Vicente Luque, Mike Perry, solid fight. Somewhere else on that card, there's a decent welterweight bout between Alexei Kunchenko and Gilbert Burns, but other than that, this card is yuck. I could read off the entire card, and Mark would recognize like 2 people.
That doesn't mean anything.
Okay, let's, for the sake of argument, we have Luis Garagordi
really
and Roberto Bandone, Volkan Uzdemir versus Ilir Latifi, Adolfo
I know
Vieja
Ilir Latifi. Wait, well, if you're going to do the bit, at least let me answer you. I know Ilir Latifi. He's the jobber they got from fucking Sweden, I think it was, when the one guy dropped out of the card.
You are correct.
Woo!
You guys realize this is going on 2 hours.
So you're up to 1. Adolfo Vieja and Oscar Pijota.
Those are just made up words.
Beans and disease to you too.
Enrique Barzola and Bobby Moffitt, Cyril Gane and Rafael Pessoa Nunez, Tisha Torres and Marina Rodriguez.
I know Tisha Torres.
You're up to 2. Rogerio Bontarin and Howley Paiva, TBD versus Ariane Carmasoli.
I know TBD.
I know TBD. I know TBD. TBD and me go way back.
Geraldo de Freitas and Chris Gutierrez. Alex de Silva and Rodrigo Vargas, and Veronica Macedo and Poliana Viana.
You could have been reading off a recipe. I honestly wouldn't have known the difference.
And here's the sad thing, Mark. You're not alone. I only know about half of those people.
Here's the sad thing. I'm not alone, but you sure will be when you cover that card.
Yeah, so if you want to stop by and leave me a message to kind of ease the darkness that is slowly encroaching around the soul of my existence, you can find me in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com. Stop by, say hello. I deeply appreciate it. I don't expect anyone to turn up for this fight outside of the main event.
Dude, half your audience is going to be watching NXT TakeOver. You're done.
Well, more than half. Yeah, look, again, a few people will tune in for the main event to see Valentina Shevchenko kill someone. That's it.
And most of those people will just see the video the next day online. They're not even watching.
There's not going to be a lot of live follows. I might get a few clicks after.
Yeah.
So, and then again, that coming Sunday, we'll review that card and preview UFC 241 when my brain explodes. Watch me try to type and talk at the same time when I'm not saying the same things that I'm typing. Boy, is that going to be an experience.
That's going to be a shit show.
Why does his coverage say, "Shut the fuck up, Mark"? Oh no.
I promise you I will not type that into my coverage.
He's going to be typing things that he's thinking like, Mark, just shut up, please. You're ranting again.
No. I'll just say that.
All right, we really got to wrap this up.
Okay, and then, next Tuesday back here on Damn You Hollywood, myself, Jason Teasley, and Alexis Hana will be reviewing Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, because Mark threw a hissy fit when he couldn't get his way. And it's fine. I'll talk about terrible female-led dark comedy movies based on crappy comics with Jesse. If you guys don't want to play in my sandbox, I'm taking my toys and I'm going home.
I got a question.
I have 100% success rate with throwing hissy fits. I'm just saying. Go ahead, Jason.
You told me you would cover the movie I requested.
When is this fucking shit show of a movie?
I don't know.
Oh my God, Jason.
You need a date, man. You gotta have a date.
Come prepared with a pitch next time.
Well, I just seen the trailer and I came off myself.
Okay, listen, West Virginia. I don't deal in I just seen. I need dates, I need times, I need channels, and then we need a recording date.
I know you and your damn schedule that changes 15 times a day because I see it on my calendar.
Yep. You are
I get
not
the
wrong.
notification. I get the notifications. That Mark has changed the date.
Sometimes I change the date and change it back in the same 5 minutes.
Also,
Yeah,
I think that happens.
there was some. I honestly think that I seen something disappear, disappear, and appear on the same day at the same time, like 4 times. I watched it happen.
Yeah, our Gambit review.
Are we done now? Are we done? They're dead. All right. Can we go now?
I'm going to keep hitting them until the power of my concussive force discovers necromancy.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, yes, we will do Zombie Tidal Wave when you have a date and a recording date that you're not going to be busy with other people's podcasts. Or, this is the most passive-aggressive podcast I think I've ever done.
Passive.
Okay, hold on. It debuts the 17th on Sci-Fi.
Of what month, fuckface?
What fucking month are we in, jackass?
This month.
It could have been September for all I knew.
I said 17th. How many fucking 17ths have came and passed?
Well, I mean, there is technically one in every month.
Yeah.
When I said the 17th, that would mean the
Jesus Christ. All right, so the 17th. So the 17th of August is Zombie Tidal Wave.
Yes, that's when it debuts, and it's on Sci-Fi, so it'll probably play 1,500 times that week.
That's fine. I will put it on my calendar. Zombie Tidal Wave. How does Friday night, August 30th sound? Unless you can do during the day.
I can do anything after 5 o'clock from 6 o'clock on because I start my new job the 19th.
Okay, so are you working like oh god, can we not discuss this now? I
work 8 to 5.
Mark cuts a scheduling bit short. That's a first.
We'll do it later. Chris Bailey. Be well.
Did you take a blow to the head that mandates you do that every time you repeat something 3 times?
Yes. Be well, be safe, and behave.